Fall comes to Delmarva with all the usual signs. Soybeans drying in the fields, the brilliant colors of the changing leaves, the brightness of the sunlight in the clear, cool air. In the village of Allen, there are other signs. Every fall on the second Sunday in November, the Allen Lions Club and the community come together to put on a very special fundraising dinner. The Allen Beef Dinner has been a tradition for half a century. It's a time of beef and brotherhood, of friendship and fire, with a cast of dozens working for 5 days to put on a Sunday dinner for 1,000.
Digitizing Delmarva's heritage and traditions.
We have a lot of fun doing it. We always complain, but we always show up and have a big time.
My father's generation and my grandfather's generation worked hard to make this dinner a success, and we offer foods that you don't get other places. For instance, when we make macaroni and cheese, we actually try to get cheese that came from cows who ate spring grass. Now, where does anybody put that kind of detail into the flavors they try to find?
It's a yearly tradition that the Lions Club put on for their, to raise money, you know, for sight and hearing and the community.
Turnips, beef, sweet potatoes, macaroni and cheese, coleslaw.
In this case, all-consuming. It takes an enormous amount of time and a lot of coordination.
I'm Bob Hogue. I'm a Allen Lions Club, have been for 35 years. This is the 49th year for our beef dinner. And tonight, I'm a turnip toter. And we're peeling 13 bushels of turnips, cutting them up and cooking them, preparing them for the beef dinner for Sunday. We get them from the farmer, we wash them, we bring them in here, set the crates on the table, give them to the turnip peelers. The peelers peel all the hide off of them, cap them, then they cut them up in little pieces so they cook quicker. And we cook them on our new stove in the kitchen, starting tonight. I do like turnips, I like them raw and cooked. We serve them cold at the dinner, which is traditional Eastern Shore fare. I do prefer mine hot though when I eat them, if I have a choice. We have Lions members, spouses of Lions, and we have other people in the community who come to help us. Lots of them have been helping, and we have children of Lions also that are here, and they're a big help, and they enjoy it too, and hopefully they'll be here to help for a long time, so this tradition can carry on.
Somebody's got to cook them, so I guess it just turned out to be me. No particular affinity to turnips now. It's a pretty low-tech operation. We slice them up, or we have people slice them up as small as we can get them so they cook faster. Once you bring your pots to the boil with a little fat back and some other secret ingredients, you just wait until they boil, until they get soft like a baked or a boiled potato. Once they get to that point, you strain the water out, you put them into a big bowl, and you smash them. And then once you've smashed them to a sort of a semi-lumpy mashed potato consistency, then we put the secret seasonings. Then we let them cool them enough so we can put them in the styrofoam containers for the carryouts, or we just put them in large storage jars and refrigerate them for the ones that we're going to serve in the dining room.
It's my job to organize the activities, be sure the food is here on time, all the utensils we need, everything we need is here on time.
My job here is to purchase all the groceries with the exception of the beef and suet. That means all the dry goods, all the plates, the tomatoes, paper products, string, foil, wax paper. As you've probably seen, we have 4 or 5 page list of jobs and products. The person I have to give lots of thanks to is Harold Davis. For years he did this job, and he kept notes which were unbelievable to the total amount that we needed, the length and the weight of everything we needed to buy. So I have to thank him. He's just made the job easy. If anyone else would like to have this job, they may have it.
Then we have people like John Shahan, who procures the beef, which is a big part of our dinner, of course. People like Bob Hogue, who procures the sweet potatoes. Bruce Bright procures the turnips and cabbage. And we're talking not small stuff here. We're about 75 heads of cabbage, 15 bushels of turnips, 15 bushels of sweet potatoes. So these are some key people, Larry. And it's his job to be sure we have enough money here for change. We're using $17 this year, which means like $1 bills, $5 bills, a variety of money. And it's his job to count the money when we're done, see how we did. And everybody has to report back into him as far as the tickets they've sold and how the money they take it in. Sometimes we'll give tickets away to people who'll give us things. Like we might swap a few tickets for 10 bushels of turnips. So we do a little negotiating with this.
My neighbor told me about this, and I wanted to do something to help the community. So I'm here to do the peeling, and I'm hoping to take advantage of the good meal that's coming on Sunday.
My name is Pauline Nichols, and I've been coming out here, this is the 49th year. It was his life. He just loved it. He loved the Lions Club. He was the first president, and he was the 25th president. And he just eat and live for the Lions Club. He did. Well, he was the greeter at the door for years. First year, the beef was done down at Jack Bryan's farm, down the road here. And they had a pit down there, and then he showed them how to do it, you know, and they made this pit. And ever since they've been using it. Well, it's just the same old tradition, I guess, we've had for years, and they don't want to change it. It's always worked, so why change it?
Well, I remember the very first one. Jack Bryan, who was a banker in Salisbury, lived on the creek not far from here, came up with the idea and gave us a steer. I say us, I was 7 years old at the time, but the club accepted the steer. He dug a hole in his front yard on the Wicomico Creek, and that's where they cooked that first beef and held it here at the community hall. And I remember that day, there was snow all over the ground, and that was the old community hall that had once been the little one-room school in Allen. And just a lot of memories about serving water and coffee when I was little. And as I got a little older, I got more responsibilities. And
it's very much the same. People are afraid to break the tradition. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And it ain't broke. We've had a successful dinner every year. We have changed a few things, such as, golly, years ago, people used to take sweet potatoes and turnips home to the house and cook them and bring them back. Now we do it all here at the community hall, which is the way it's supposed to be done, health-wise, because the community hall is health department inspected. So we do it all here now. That's probably the only big change we've made.
Everybody comes and complains, but everybody likes doing it. So it's, and of course nothing ever changes. I mean, you know, innovation is not in the vocabulary here at the Allen Community Center. If they did it in 1948 that way, God darn it, that's the way we're doing it now. So it's, you know, I've always said this community center is a lot like the Vatican. It never really changes.
some of us get teased because we don't like to make a lot of changes, but when we have made changes, it's usually been to make the process go smoother and to make the product a little better. So there's different things that have happened like that.
Well, they had really to have the carryouts because they couldn't accommodate so many people inside. And that was really a lifesaver, you know, made it easier for the ones serving inside because people didn't have to stand in line, you know, and wait. And now they have as many takeouts as they do inside or more.
It's pretty much the same in that the recipe is the same. The menu is the same and the recipes are the same. And a lot of us subscribe to the if it ain't broke, don't fix it theory. Especially these days when dining in general has moved more and more to pre-packaged, pre-made, quick, fast, easier food. Even when you go out to nice restaurants, a lot of what you eat, and it's very good, but it probably all came from Sam's Club or Cisco or something like that, and it's, you know, they have to do what they can to make things efficient. And there's nothing wrong with that. But everything here is home-cooked, handmade from scratch. The closest thing we come to pre-made is that the tomatoes are already canned. We're not cooking fresh tomatoes, and we didn't can them ourselves. So we start with canned tomatoes, but that's just the base, and then there's the recipe that makes those Miss Pauline's stewed tomatoes so fabulous.
I can't help now like I used to. I started out with tomatoes. I've done that for years and helped with the macaroni and cheese, and now they have different jobs. Different ones do different jobs. But I feel like I'm 90 years old and I've had my turn. And now it's time for some of the younger ones to do it. But I still enjoy coming in helping all I can.
It's a thing that brings the whole community together. And, you know, in a rural area, it seemed like a very nice thing to be a part of.
Tonight we're coring the tomatoes, smashing the tomatoes up, getting a lot of the juice out of them, and putting them in cans, and we'll start cooking Saturday afternoon.
We enjoy it. It's a great social time for the community. Last night, 60 people turned out for turnip peeling night. Not all Lions Club. This is not a Lions Club day, even though it's called that. It's a community dinner. There's 60 people. Tonight we've got probably 45 people for tomato night. We're finishing up turnips. We're doing sweet potatoes.
For me, I'm going to go in the back then. I thought
It's really a community activity. In church last week, I called it a festival. Some people call it Hell Week, but it's a big week for us. We make our money that we use to support charities. We donate to the fire department. We pay for the Allen street lights from it.
I'm Larry Stuckey. I'm pastor of Asbury United Methodist Church in the village of Allen, and I'm in my 9th year. This dinner given by the Lions Club is a little more ambitious in the amount of things that they serve.
My name is Melissa Bright, and I don't know how long I've been doing this. This is part of my childhood growing up. When you're a child in Allen, you get to do certain very non-hazardous jobs as a small child, and then you graduate and do more and more things. And so I missed the couple of years that I was away in college, and the first year that I was married, my husband was in the Marine Corps and we weren't here. But other than that, I'm 52 years old, so I've probably done maybe 40 of them. I think in some way I've probably participated in close to 40, but I don't really know the years. You can see we have sweet potatoes out here. These have been cooked and peeled, and they're going to be in cold storage until we serve them. But you don't want to pile them up while they're hot and then put them in the chiller because they'll sour. We learned that the hard way once or twice when people got, and they, you know, they mean well. We have 15 bushels of sweet potatoes to prepare, so it's very easy to get all enthusiastic and go, okay, this pan's ready to go. But you really have to slow down and let them cool off completely before you chill them, because if you don't, you're going to end up with soured and no good sweet potatoes. Same thing with the turnips. The turnips have to be pretty much room temperature before you can chill them down because they could sour. We boil the macaroni the day before we add it to the sauce, which is done the morning of the dinner. And that's another tricky thing. We have to rinse the macaroni in cold ice water until it's completely chilled. Then we drain it really, really well, and then it's put in cold storage until we're ready to mix it with the cheese sauce. We had 55 people here last night peeling and slicing and cutting up turnips, and the guys in the kitchen started cooking the turnips. And at the same time, we had people started yesterday afternoon with cooking the sweet potatoes. There are 13 bushels of sweet potatoes. They got 5 bushels done last night. I think they got all the other 8 all done tonight. So the sweet potatoes are done, which is amazing. I think this is the first year they've ever been done this quickly, but they'll be just fine. They're good to go on Sunday. Tonight is Thursday night, and we have cases and cases and cases of these tomatoes that every tomato, the tomatoes are drained, every single tomato is taken out, the core is removed, then the tomatoes are squished and they're put in the cans, and they'll be ready to go into the pot when the stewed tomatoes are made. They're finishing up the last of the turnips. Tomorrow night is Friday night. Some of the Lions used to say, well, we get so much done Wednesday and Thursday, we'll take Friday night off. But we found out that makes Saturday a disaster. So tomorrow night we'll make about 15 gallons of cheese sauce. We use that old-fashioned daisy cheese. It comes in a 20-pound wooden wheel. Although this year they weren't wooden. I was really disappointed, first time ever. But they're still good daisy cheese, good cheddar cheese. It's not too strong, but it has a good rich flavor. And we'll use 100 pounds of that cheese to make the cheese sauce. And they will, on Saturday, they'll have the cabbage chopped and the carrots grated, and the coleslaw dressing will be mixed. We have that's another tricky thing. A few people are able to get that just right, but we'll have that mixed up, and then Sunday morning we'll mix the macaroni with the cheese sauce and bake that and mix up the coleslaw. We are, as we prepare these things through these 2 or 3 nights of preparation, we are packing some of the things for the carryouts. We can go ahead and put turnips in little containers. We will start gravy Saturday as well, and once that cools, we can pack some of the gravy for carryouts ahead of time. We'll start gravy Saturday, but the gravy maker will be making gravy all day Sunday. He'll be just constantly making gravy. And the same thing with the stewed tomatoes. We're going to make some stewed tomatoes on Saturday, and once they're cool, we'll pack some carry-out containers of stewed tomatoes. But the stewed tomatoes are another thing. It's an ongoing cooking thing all day Sunday until they're all cooked and the crowd thins down.
Well, I look forward to being with the people that we've worked with. We all get along wonderful. We all have a job and we do our jobs. And that's what makes it so successful.
I've lived in Allen almost since the day I was born. I have been around the Lions Club since it was organized in 1959. And with the exception of a couple of years in college and maybe 1 or 2 others, I've attended every beef dinner we've had. Well, right now we're building a fire. We started about 11 this morning. We'll keep feeding the fire until about 9 or 10 o'clock tonight, when we hope to have a good bed of hot coals.
Well, I'm Dick Warren. I'm retired judge, circuit court. Used to live down here in Allen, still in the Allen Lions Club. And in the beef dinner, while I'm working right now in the fire pit crew. As you can see, I'm really actually not working right now while they're doing all the work, but then during the dinner, I'm mostly a waiter. It seems like when you get a job here at the beef dinner, you get that job permanently. So this is where I started, and this is where I still am. Well, I can remember years ago when first started, I guess, it was a smaller group, a smaller community then. And I was younger, and I could stay here until past midnight, and we'd sit around and after get the beef put on, and just kind of sit around and talk. And I think Rick, I overheard Rick saying earlier, mostly for us young guys, it was just sitting around listening to the old timers talk about how things were in the old days and the days when this was a one-room schoolhouse, and how things worked in a one-room schoolhouse. And it was like living history. I think the other thing that really has struck me about this place is to see the continuity from one generation to another. Like the fellow here earlier, Eddie Moore, who's, gosh, I can remember him when he was just a little kid. And I don't know whether I should reveal this secret or not. No, I won't reveal. But I can remember him sitting on my knee as a little kid, Now he's a great big strapping man, you know. I can remember when his grandfather worked here and when his father worked here, and he's got a boy coming up, and you know, and like Rick, same thing. You know, Rick started out as a young kid, and his grandfather worked here, and his father worked here, and now his son's working here, and it's kind of neat. You don't see that too much anymore. Well, as much work as it is, it's also fun. The camaraderie, just putting something together and seeing it actually work. And I don't know. It's it's an important thing for the Lions Club too. It's the major fundraiser and keeps the lifeblood of the club going, so to speak. And I guess tradition's a big thing too. You know, it's a tradition here.
One of the biggest changes has been our drive-through carry-out window. That has been a fabulous, fabulous thing because it cut down on congestion. People no longer have to wait in line to get in the front door to then say, I want to carry out, which then has to be, the ticket gets carried back to the kitchen and then it has to be fixed. And we've eliminated that congestion and that wait by and large. Sometimes the line for carryouts is still kind of long, but it moves much more quickly now because we pre-pack a lot of things. It's handmade recipes and homemade food, but we pre-pack the carryouts the day before so that we're able to just put things together, and we take the whole bag and put it out the window, and there's a lion out there to give it to the people in the car. So that's been a huge benefit and probably the biggest change I could think of.
We have actually made some changes over the years. We've got a big iron pipe around the pit over here behind me now. That was after 2 or 3 of our members came close to falling in. So that's been a very much appreciated safety feature. It's almost like a curry and knife scene, especially if it's cold and we're all huddling around the fire and we're telling stories, just trying to keep each other amused. As I say, growing up here, I remember so much enjoying the old stories from my father's generation and my grandfather's generation. And you learn a lot, and you don't have to say a word, and you can just learn so much. And I think it's the camaraderie, it's the idea that we are actually here doing something, and we go late into the night. There's been times when people would bring beverages that added to the party atmosphere, and that always made things go a nice way. So it's just a really good time of fellowship, and something you don't see very often anymore. The fire company, the Allen Fire Company, is very helpful. They're the ones who actually come in here at night and stand down in the pit after the sand has been spread out where it's still too hot for people to stand. And we keep fire extinguishers close by because we always have to hose somebody down after they've been in there a little while. So it really is a full community effort. We couldn't do it without everyone else.
Just to give you some FYI, we finally did a test. That pit, when we crawled down in there, or before we put sand in, was 1,250 degrees. It's hot. It hurts. I've lost half the hair from the shin down. But yeah, everybody has always asked, how hot is the pit? We've never known. So we've got this new camera for the fire department that tests heat. And it's 1,250 degrees.
It was put on at midnight last night, and at 6:30, 6:45, it was started taking off.
It's a lot of stuff going on all at once. It's just hot down there, you know, and so they get that beef in and out hot. They take the first piece off. They take off one roast first, test it, see if it's done.
We're looking for doneness. I mean, is it too done? Is it too rare? That's how we judge what we need to do with the beef box. So.
If that's done, then the rest of them come off, and that's a lot of stuff going on all at once because they got to get out there in a hurry.
It is then taken off the pit and put in what we call the beef box, which is an insulated box, and it will go in there and it will continue cooking. So we have to be very careful that it isn't too done, or we have, you know, because there is no thermostat on there to regulate the temperature in the beef box. We have to do it by either opening the door and letting air in, or keeping the door closed and let it continue cooking. And that's where we are right now. It is probably 7:30 in the morning. We've got all the beef off. The breakfast has been served, thanks to several line members.
We usually have pancakes and eggs and bacon, nice high cholesterol breakfast.
And we're just getting ready to go. At 10 o'clock, 3 of us will be up here starting slicing, and we'll slice until 5 o'clock tonight or until the beef is gone.
Captain Jack Bryan, who was the founder of this dinner, sliced it in the early years, and then that job was taken over by Lewis Nichols. Lewis trained his son Ralph, and Ralph did it. I can remember when Mr. Lewis was doing it, but mostly I remember Ralph doing it. And Ralph was meticulous about how that beef was sliced, as his father had been. He was very, very picky about how the beef was sliced. You have to slice it across the grain. And if the beef is sliced correctly, you don't need a knife to eat it. It will just pretty much melt in your mouth. It'll be so tender. But if it's sliced wrong, you're better off with a piece of shoe leather. So if the beef is sliced wrong, we're risking our reputation as well as wasting good beef. So it has to be done correctly. Ralph spent years training my husband to step into his shoes. And my husband, Bruce, is now the chief beef slicer. And he's training other people as well. But it's a tricky thing because the grain in the beef doesn't all run the same way through a whole roast. You have to keep watching that grain and turning the roast and turning the roast and turning the roast on the slicer to make sure you're cutting it properly.
It will be a madhouse. We, in 6 hours, will slice 1,650 pounds of beef. and have it prepped in on plates for everybody to serve and to eat. When I sell a ticket to somebody, what I normally tell them, if they have to take a knife and cut the beef, I'll buy the ticket for them. It's always been nice and tender, cut right. It's just remarkable, the process that it goes through. At this point in life, with the guys that I have back here, I have myself and another slicer. It's just routine. We know what we need to do. We know which way we need to slice it. It's routine at this, but it's more than a process. It's, like I said, this takes years of experience.
I've had the job for a number of years now of organizing the wait staff. So we'll be responsible for the waiting on tables, bussing them, serving the meals to everyone, trying to make sure everybody gets all they want while they're here. It is an all-you-can-eat dinner, and we advertise to start about noon, but the first people will be here around 11 o'clock, and we'll serve them what we have, and probably go until 4:30 or 5. Hopefully we'll serve about 1,000 people, 1,100 people at the most, half through the carry-out window, about half inside.
I'm usually the one who makes the coffee. That's my usual job, and that's fine. I can do some cooking too, but making coffee is just quite simple, repetitious.
I started off making coffee, and then the next thing I knew, I was in the kitchen doing tomatoes with Polly Nichols, and I've been there ever since. You just take the can, dump it in, put your butter, put a little bit of salt, what makes the tomatoes, or the cinnamon and the sugar that you put in it, and we use crumbs to thicken them with. We don't measure anything. We just dump it in. We get someone to taste it, or we just hope and pray to goodness that this one will help the other one if we didn't do it right.
This is not an event sponsored by the church, it's sponsored by the Lions Club. It's really done by the whole community. But we don't have an 11 o'clock service that morning because by 11 o'clock people need to be over here in the community hall getting ready to serve the public. So we have an abbreviated service at 9:30.
I'm Dorothy Jean Alton from Salisbury, Maryland, and I'm down here for the fabulous roast beef and all the trimmings. The roast beef and the macaroni and cheese, I think, were the hit today. We always tried to come, you know, and we've been here when it's been bad weather, but everybody came anyway.
My name is Linwood Barnes, and I'm from Snow Hill, and we come over every year for it, have for probably the last 6 or 8 years anyhow, maybe more. Now, I've got to admit, I come for the roast beef and the macaroni and cheese. I like the other things, but I probably wouldn't be driving from Snow Hill for cold turnips and cold sweet potatoes, but I definitely drive from Snow Hill for the roast beef and the macaroni and cheese. We've always come into the dining room. We've never been through the carry. She suggested it. My wife has suggested it a couple of times, but we have never gone through the carry. We just enjoy coming in, eating what we want, and leaving. We were the first ones at this table, and then they seated these people beside us, and we've enjoyed striking up a conversation.
Oh, I like all the homemade cooking here. It's all good. Yeah, the turnips are real good. Beef was good. It's all good.
I belong to the Salisbury Metro Lions Club. Of course, this is the Lions Club. Robert Hogg from Princess Anne calls me, tells me about it. I mail him a check, and he mails me the tickets. It works out very well. And then we get to see some of the Boy Scouts. We know their families. We get to see them and talk with them on the way in. It's just an afternoon. It's an afternoon of really getting to see a lot of people that we may know, and these are people we did not know, and it's delicious food.
This is our first time. It's great. It's awesome. Yeah, we'll come back.
My name is Inga Hitchens, and I've lived by Upper Ferry for the last 40 years. I think I'm still considered a newcomer, but we've always managed to come here for this dinner because it's outstanding. And this year, to my mind, was the best ever. The beef was absolutely tender this year. Once in a while it gets a little overcooked, but not this year. It was great. And my husband loves their stewed tomatoes.
Tomatoes are kind of Miss Pauline and Miss Peggy's bailiwick, but there's a touch with the tomatoes too. That consistency has to be just right. And same thing can be said with the gravy. The gravy is the old-fashioned gravy where they render the suet down to make a roux, and then they make that wonderful brown gravy. And I always tell people it's that kind of delicious brown gravy that while you're eating it, you can feel your arteries going. But it's only once a year, and it's really, really good. So that's another good secret to the dinner. So it's just really good stuff, but you have to treat it with TLC.
I love the food. My favorite stewed tomatoes. Everybody else has their own favorites.
I think the pit beef. I'm really, that's a very special way to do the beef.
A lot of my teenage years, I was fortunate enough to spend in the beef room, where the really great thing is you get to have little slivers of beef in a roll, and you pretty much sustain yourself on those while you're working, but you don't see anything that goes on out front. And then for a long time, frankly, the women worked in the kitchen and the men waited on the tables out front. So we women never saw the public, never saw what was actually happening in the dining room. We just knew we were fixing food and filling up dishes all day long. We usually don't get out of here until about 7 o'clock on Sunday. The dinner ends ostensibly at 4:30, but then there are always a few stragglers, and then maybe some of the help gets to eat that hadn't had a chance to eat. And then you have a great deal of cleanup. Huge amount of cleanup. I love this dinner. I love the preparation. The one thing I don't love is that as I've gotten older, I found out that Sunday night I'm usually in a certain amount of pain, physical pain, and I resent my body for not hanging in with me, I try to schedule a massage for Monday whenever possible. But it's a good feeling, and I usually get my dinner as a carryout, so that I can go home Sunday night after things are cleaned up, and go home Sunday night and wash the veneer of grease that just seems to kind of float in the air at the end of the day, and get cleaned up and sit back in my recliner and enjoy part of my dinner. So that's a thing I look forward to.
Mary had a little lamb. It should have been a sheep, but this lamb was an Allenite and died for lack of sleep. Because the schedule is really very hectic, and by the end of the week, after you have to clean up at the end of this dinner on Sunday, you're totally worn out. I think it's quite important. It's one in which a lot of people join in together, people who would not be involved in the church congregation. And while I'm sure there's some grumbling about the amount of work it is, in the end, I think they get to know each other and work together, and that carries over then into other areas of life.
You see that a lot of the same faces year after year. I think that's a big part of it, the fun of it too. Is the same people. Maybe you hadn't seen them again till next year, But yeah, it's work, but you get in the groove after a while, and
I think my biggest concern is that people will, in the name of convenience and comfort, start chipping away at the things that have made this such a tradition over the years, and at some point in time it just may not be what it is today. I hope that time never comes. It's been going on so long, and it really is such a tremendous community effort to get it all to come together, and it is a lot of work, and almost a full week is taken out of real serious stress. But when it's over, you feel warm inside that you've done a good thing, that you've got people that are depending on the money you raise, and you feel like you really have done your part for your community. But it is nice to be able to say the beef dinner is over.
I think it went all right. I do too. We had a tremendous amount of help in all sections of the work area, and they seem to work cooperatively.
And nobody got mad and went home. Our motto today has been make like a duck. Let it roll off. Whatever it is, let it roll off. So every now and then we look at each other and go quack.
We had no major setbacks today. We found that we were short on some product, but that was taken care of right quickly by some very good volunteers. So it worked well.
Something changes every year. I don't know why we haven't run out of things to change, but something is different every year.
Well, at least last year the pickles disappeared. This year we had pickles. Isn't that true?
That's true.
Okay.
That's very true. We were ahead this year. We stayed caught up and ahead on stewed tomatoes and macaroni, which was really good.
And coleslaw stayed up to snuff as well. We packaged 502 containers of turnips and ran out of those early in the day today. We had to package at least another 150.
We're thinking a little over 600 on the carryouts.
It's probably about 670 by now.
I haven't heard the dining room figures, have you?
Between 250 and 300.
So we're looking at close to 1,000.
This is a Lions Club beef dinner. It's labeled that way, but the Lions Club could not do this without the help of the community. And people were very generous with their time, not only today, but Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and today.
And there was one just waving to us a minute ago, so we were nodding a thank you to her, and I ditto. Thanks to everybody. This is truly a community effort, and there were literally dozens of people here every step of the way. So, and it takes that many hands. And like most things in Allen, it just happens. You say this is what we're going to do, and it works.
And I will add one other thing. This was not, these volunteers ranged in age from 7 to 90 plus.
That's right.
That's why it works.
It's everybody working together. That's the glue that makes us a community and not just a collection of houses where people come to sleep. It's a community. And this community encompasses people who don't geographically live right here, but they are still part of the community because they put their hearts and their energy and their time and their love into it. And it's a labor, it has to be a labor of love. There's no earthly reason to do it otherwise.
Or a labor of stupidity.
No, love. Let's opt.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Let's opt for love.
It's Lions Clubs and it's members of the community. If it were only the Allen Lions Club, we couldn't do it. But our friends, our neighbors, our families from other towns and other counties come in to help us with this.
A couple times I've run the beef dinner and I've always been amazed at how hard people work, and they have bad legs, bad arms, bad backs, and they stand up all day and they do the work. And at the end of the project, you just say thank God, and you realize how good my neighbors are.